Well, here I am with the inimitable Tim Williams, the one and only, the man with, I think it's 700 testimonials on LinkedIn, with an enormous database community of followers, people who've taken an interest in what Tim's doing, what Tim's teaching. G'day, Tim.
How are you, mate?
Good. How are you going?
Fantastic.
Now, before I mention anything LinkedIn, I know by now you're a man who loves speed, you're a man who loves action, you're a man who doesn't do things in half measures. Tell me about speed. What do we got?
I'm a big fan of Porsches and I'm also heavily involved in go-karts as well. So different type of speed, but just as much fun.
A lot of excitement. Any injuries to speak of?
I guess a few to pride, a few accidents along the way, but nothing major.
Okay, good to hear. You're in one piece. Keep it that way, if you will. You're someone who's invested a huge amount of time getting to understand LinkedIn, what it can do, what it can't do. Where are things at now for your business? What's the adventure?
I guess we sort of got involved with LinkedIn around 2005, and LinkedIn's really only been going since 2004, and we sort of messed around with Facebook for a few days and we couldn't find any real purpose for that from a sort of a B2B situation. Fine for B2C. We've discovered that LinkedIn is probably the ultimate tool from a B2B perspective.
Yep.
And lots of people in the industry are now embracing. In fact, I think there's around 3 million people in Australia alone on LinkedIn now.
Out of a total eligible potential user base of about 5 million, so that's about 60%.
Yes, yeah. So maybe 6 million would be max, but yeah, I think about 50% saturation.
And Tim, what would you say are the key uses if you think about LinkedIn? What really should people be thinking to use LinkedIn for?
I think LinkedIn sort of started off with a bit of a bad name because a lot of people thought it was just used by recruiters to hassle them. And yeah, sure, recruitment's a big part of LinkedIn, but from a B2B perspective, it's pretty much the ultimate, I guess, prospecting tool, because with the yellow pages, which has been historically the way people have actually found people, that's great. We've got the phone numbers and the addresses, but what you don't actually have, of course, is the names and the job titles. So, LinkedIn provides you that. There's a few things which are missing from LinkedIn, which we've solved, but ultimately it's the best database in the world from a professional B2B perspective.
So we know for sure that anyone who's wanting to grow a business, one of the most important things is to actually have a database, a means of tracking your community and potential members of your community. What you're talking about here is having a very personalised yellow pages and ultimately using some of the tricks and tools that you teach.
Yes. Access
to absolute thousands of people.
Absolutely. So, my personal little network's sort of grown from 3 or 4 or 500 people to nearly 7,000 people now, which allows me to reach, I would say, close to 1 million of the 3 million people in Australia on LinkedIn now. It's an incredible tool. It just hasn't been possible with any other technology until recently.
Amazing. Now, before I ask your guidance related to LinkedIn and some of the tools, I want to ask your professional opinion on a particular piece. Have you ever heard of a website called Fiverr, Fiverr.com?
No, I haven't.
Basically, it's an outsourced portal where you can get jobs done for $5. You get all kinds of really cool stuff done for $5.
Similar to Elance, man.
Exactly, but everything's $5.
Okay.
And I saw up on Fiverr the other day, someone has put an offer out there to get me 1,000 brand new connections on LinkedIn.
Yes.
For only $5.
I think that would be dangerous.
So what are you saying? Okay. By the way, that was a joke.
Yes.
Whether I should go ahead or not. But Tim's take, that's dangerous. Why?
Yes.
Why dangerous?
I wouldn't be touching anything like that, because anything to do with people selling your list, whether that be on Twitter or Facebook or friends, they're probably going to end up, most of them are going to be spammers. So you need to be in control of your network. And you need to think about what type of network you want to build, because there are limitations on how many people you can actually invite. And there's also limitations of how large the network can actually be. So you've got to think about carefully, do you want to attract people who are sales managers, marketing managers, or do you want to attract people who are another type of professional? So it's very important to give it a little bit of thought before you start out on that adventure to go and build a network.
If I asked you to give a couple of tips from a strategy perspective, what would be a good overall approach? So before we look at any of the details, what is a good strategy to think of for LinkedIn and how to use it to ideally grow your prospect base and do more business?
Yes. I guess the first thing is for people to get over the situation where they're annoyed by people inviting them. I mean, you should be very happy that people are actually inviting you because that's the only way you can grow your network. You also need to get over the concept of only inviting people that you know because that would defeat the entire purpose of being a part of LinkedIn. It's about growing a network of people that you actually don't know.
Okay. So you accept invitations from anyone in Australia?
I'll accept invitations from anyone who's sort of involved in a B2B environment who's based in Australia, yes. Because it's not just that first level connection, it's their entire network that when they join your network, all of their contacts come into your network, which allows you to provide a much greater reach.
Okay, so first bit of strategy is it's about building a network of people that you don't yet know rather than just connecting with people you do know.
Yes.
What else from a high level, a strategic level, would you give as pointers?
I guess a key concept is that LinkedIn really is about two things. It's about actually your ability to find people, but also other people's ability to actually find you. Whether that be for expertise request or some other purpose. You actually want people to find you.
Okay, so then at a tactical level, what are some of the things that you've got to cover off in order to make yourself findable?
Yes. Well, I guess you need to have a complete profile. For those people who are starting out for the first time, you'll notice that LinkedIn will actually say that your profile is not complete. And one simple little thing there is that to actually have a complete profile, you actually need to have at least 3 recommendations provided by, the LinkedIn community. So that would be one simple tip.
Okay, so 3 recommendations. I've heard you say always use a photograph, don't leave a blank space there.
Yes.
And a good tip that you gave is personalise the link to reach you, don't leave it as the gobbledygook, put your name in there.
Exactly. So if you're going to have a photograph, make sure it's relevant to the type of work you're in keep the girlfriend or your boyfriend or the dog or the pet or something. It's just not relevant in a business environment to put that in there.
Okay. And Tim, at a tactical level, if in just 1 or 2 minutes you were going to give someone guidance, what would you say are 3 of the most important things to look after as you're trying to build your list? What are 3 of the most important things to do in order to be more attractive on LinkedIn, or in fact, to find more people that you're trying to connect with?
Okay, I guess a couple of key things is to actually join groups. That would be probably the most important thing. And join groups which are relevant to you. And there's lots of reasons why you do that. And a big part of that is actually growing your network. Another thing would be to ask for recommendations from people. And because people like to work with people who are subject matter experts or experts. That's a simple thing to do. And I guess some of the other key things would be, starting to use some of the clever things within LinkedIn, like emails and so on, and that can actually allow you to reach very difficult to get to people. So if you want to get to the CEO of a large company, emails are a very effective strategy. It's a very professional way to communicate with someone. As you become more proficient with LinkedIn and actually start using the paid accounts, you start to realise how powerful the tool really is. So I always recommend to everyone start off with a free account and sort of experiment and get to know a little bit about it. But then as you start to use it as a serious tool, you really need to get a paid account. It's very important. I think it's really, as you know, it's just another form of communication. And if you put no effort into it and it's not personalised, then you'll have a poor result, as with everything in sales. But if you put a bit of effort into it and a bit of research, you get a terrific result. And actually, only this morning, it's funny that you asked this question. Only this morning, I was actually watching a video that was produced by a guy. I think his name was Tim Walsh, and he's actually a comedian, and he put together a series of commercials for IBM, and he actually works for Cisco, and I actually just sent him a request to join my network, and so I just wrote some nice things about him and said that how much fun I had enjoying watching his YouTube videos over the years, and I've shown them to a number of people in our sales courses, and I've asked him to join our network, and from my experience, if you write something nice about people and show your admiration and that you really appreciate their hard work, they generally accept it.
So you're writing something personal that says there's a personal touch. You're not just using the generic, please join my network.
No, that's the first thing that you need to do is start to personalise things. And there's ways to speed up that process with templates which you customise, but you do need to put a little bit more effort into it than using any sort of default text.
Awesome. Thanks for the tips, Tim. So we know that Tim has actually come to market with something that's a first in the world, which is actually going to take a lot of time, effort and work away from people, people who need to get on with business development. So you guys are actually offering to take on the outsourcing of a lot of the work with a very smart system called 52 Lists. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So I guess 52 Lists came about, we've been developing it over the last couple of years, and it came about to solve a problem for myself and my staff personally. And through our sales training course, we've trained over 1,300 professional salespeople. And the common problem that they all face is, of course, they're all time poor, and they just don't have enough time to do business development as much as they would like, because they actually don't have the time to build the lists. And the lists are the key. They need new people to chase all the time. So we basically solved that problem for them.
So using the 52 List system, you actually set up, individual companies set up an advanced search feature which can repeat and self-perpetuate, just bringing in new names of highly relevant, targeted contacts into the community, and then you guys do all the research, get back with email addresses, phone numbers, any other relevant info?
Absolutely. So what happens is traditionally you've really just had two ways to actually build lists. You could pick up the yellow pages or the white pages and start dialing, which is what we've all been doing for 30 years or so. And then along came another option, of course, people who built lists. But a lot of people get frustrated, and I've bought lists myself, and they've been helpful in some way, but the biggest challenge is they're actually a finite resource. So when that information runs out, there's no more. But the great thing about LinkedIn, and it's also a lot of accuracy problems, but the great thing about LinkedIn is that the people who are actually on LinkedIn actually choose to update that information themselves, and it's very accurate. So there are ways of actually extracting all of that information, but there's certain components which are missing, which people would like to have. Like the phone numbers and the addresses and so on. So basically what 52 Lists is all about, it's about putting professional B2B salespeople in Australia in contact with virtual assistants, and they're doing some of the work for them, but it's a better use of their time, and it increases their productivity on average by about 20%.
So imagine that at a relatively low price, you land up with lists of relevant, targeted people to contact. And all the work in terms of the research is done by someone else. You just land up with a list of people, whether it's you or your salespeople, to actually contact, and whether that's to set appointments or to progress different marketing tactics, education forums, whatever it is you're doing. What an easy way, and what a cost-effective way compared to buying a database when you think about it.
Yeah. And this way it's an infinite resource which actually never runs out. And you're in total control of it. And every single week, you'll receive either 10, 50 or 100 brand new contacts which you chose, and we go and find the missing data. So you can focus on what you do best and go out there and sell.
How awesome. And we're lucky enough, I know Tim, you're not giving actually any more live talks on LinkedIn. I was lucky enough to attend one recently. I would describe your talk as generous. You definitely just get down and dirty, share all the recipes. There's no fluff around what you were sharing. And Tim, you're actually not giving any more live talks in Melbourne, except the one at our workshop in October.
That's the last one. We've got another presentation in Sydney, late October, and then we'll be promoting this in the US, because there's no competitors in the world, so we'll be spending a lot of time in America.
We're very grateful for that. Aside from the winning lottery numbers, if there's one mind-blowing insight that you could share, one thing that you think could just really make a difference to people who are getting going and progressing the journey with LinkedIn, what would it be?
I guess even with a free account, there's ways to actually put a lot of automation in LinkedIn. So you would do some of the initial searches, and there's ways of actually saving it so those searches can occur on a regular basis, and actually just look for the differential updates. So you're just finding the new people that you didn't find last week. And that's all free. It's all available to anyone. But people need to understand how to do that.
Can I ask you, will you share that with our audience in October?
Yes.
Awesome. Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a ton, Tim. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks very much, Ian.
Yeah.